So please welcome John Sieggreen.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm here today to talk to you about what's happening with some of the tech initiatives inside CNRG. Now, you've heard today, and most of you already knew, we commonly refer to CNRG as the lab, because its brands serve as the places where new ideas and programs, both tech and otherwise, are tested, refined, improved, and sometimes rejected, so that they can be ready for other dealers. Hence, the lab coat. Now, I thought about the lab coat idea for a while, whether it was exactly right, because the coat kind of implies that maybe I'm the scientist responsible for creating the ideas. But I'll tell you, there are certainly times where our brands, our teams, have felt more like the subjects of the experiments than the architects of them. But truth be told, all of us in the leadership roles take that responsibility very seriously. And we're constantly tinkering with the ideas, working to improve them, and in the lab, offering what we hope is valuable input and feedback to the tech group and to our third-party partners. So I think the lab coat works. And besides, it wouldn't be as easy to speak to you today if I had been wheeled out on a gurney like a patient. So when Mark and Grant asked me to make an appearance here, I went back and looked at some of my notes from when I stood in front of this group 2 years ago. And back then, we called it an eCommerce symposium, and now we call it a tech symposium. So I guess that's progress right off the bat. But as I did 2 years ago, I'm going to frame for you some of the most important things that I've learned in the past couple of years since we've been working on these tech initiatives. But I'll remind you first that in that last meeting, I self-identified as a skeptic, meaning as the ops guy, I'm naturally skeptical about things people tell me about tech projects. Not necessarily negative, but certainly cautious about lofty promises, aggressive timelines, seamlessness. I'll come back to that later, but I mention it now because I plan to be very transparent with you on these update items. Now, as some have already mentioned, and I'll say again, there are several opportunities to learn more about what's going on in the lab at the Orgill market here over the next few days. There's seminars, live demonstrations, and you'll be able to dig deeper into the various aspects of all these tech initiatives. So in the past 2 years, we've continued to roll out integrated e-commerce to CNRG brands. And as we speak, I can tell you that almost every brand that uses Epicor Eagle is running integrated e-commerce. The two exceptions are Fratelloni's, which is our newest acquisition, and they have plans to be online by May. And the other exception is Morrison Terrebonne. Only reason I can give you for Morrison Terrebonne not being live is I guess everything happens a little bit differently in Houma. Plus, they're mostly an LBM brand, only 2 locations, and they just got hit by a hurricane, so it really hasn't been top priority. And we have 4 CNRG brands using Fan Builder, which is, of course, our loyalty platform. Town & Country, Osh, Germantown, and Fratelloni's. Again, these are all brands using Epicor Eagle as their point-of-sale system. So you might ask, well, John, how's it going? And I'd say, not bad, but we got work to do, which leads me to point out learning number 1 that I wanted to share with you today. And that's that once you begin using a certain technology and begin to see what it can do for your business, you want more of it. You want it to integrate better. You want it to have more features. You want to use it to take your business to the next level. If Joni Mitchell's saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone, this is more like, you don't really know how much is gone till you got it. So more specifically, I think we're closest to achieving the vision on the data side of our integrated e-commerce. The Orgill industry PIM, with its million-plus count of items and growing, all enriched, it works. And you can't have the integrated in integrated e-commerce without being able to fully represent the brand. Just like Dan was talking about, you want that shopping experience to be the same no matter where it is. Now that means that our PIM houses many items that aren't in Orgill warehouses, and in many cases, items that Orgill doesn't even currently sell, even on a dropship basis. So from my perspective, the lab results are a thumbs up on the data part of the offering. On the other hand, there's still work to do on the e-commerce platform itself. Mark alluded to this in his comments at the beginning. We've got some work to do. Now, it's functional, to be sure, and there have been improvements in the past couple of years, such as Pickup Hub. But I'd say overall, it's probably not where we want it to be. It's not as smooth an experience for our customers as our customers need it to be, and it's not as easy to operate for our brands as our stores need it to be. And that's true really on both the front and the back ends of the business. An example of this might be that we currently today can't facilitate customer-specific pricing. So for example, when a pro customer wants to be able to go online, shop, and get specific pricing for his account, or when an employee shops and wants to buy at her employee price. Now that's more limiting to some of our brands than others, but having that kind of functionality is important if we're gonna, as the lab, endorse this solution to other dealers, many of whom it might be very important to. And that's just one example. They tell me it's being worked on. Now, the reverse Joni Mitchell effect, if you want to call it that, it's also evident in our Fan Builder program. Fan Builder is really good. We're rapidly registering accounts in the brands where we have it installed. Now, never was this more evident than out in California at Osh, where there was a lot of pent-up demand for a loyalty program after Orchard shut down. Their program, Club Orchard, was very popular. So when we launched Club Osh, that was also very popular and was powered by Fan Builder. We have a list of some 150,000 accounts in a little more than a year on the program. Pretty amazing. And as you would expect, the data suggest that Club Osh members spend more than non-members by significant margin. But there are some important features we need to consider adding to the Fan Builder platform that would take it from good to great. Most of these involve creating some flexibility in how to structure offers, promotions, special pricing, and so forth. And more importantly, we need to move forward with finding the right data intelligence and marketing engine to become Fan Builder's partner so that we can actually use the data we're generating to better understand our customers and market to them based on their stated interests or tendencies, as well as their behavior, which is often indicative of the far more important unstated interests and tendencies. Now, today, honestly, my brands are not using that Fan Builder data at all, but I can tell you they're chomping at the bit to do so. Our newest brand, Fratelloni's adopted Fan Builder, as I mentioned earlier, and Mike Fratelloni, in his trademark rat-a-tat-tat fashion, suggested to me about a dozen ways that we could think about making Fan Builder better or using its data. Some of Mike's ideas were probably based on things he'd seen with Ace, but others were just based on the fact that he's a super bright thinker and a damn good retailer. But his comments got me thinking too about what we could do, what we need to do, and how we're not quite there yet. Which leads me to my learning number 2, also referenced, I think, in Dan's talk, but this stuff is hard. And I say stuff in these air quotes the same way that on that Frank's Red Hot Sauce commercial, they say, I put that stuff on everything, right? This stuff is hard. Now, that's not your problem, and at least when I have my CNRG hat on, only it's not really necessarily my problem either, but truth be told, it's a huge challenge to get all of this exactly right at the same time you're trying to scale it, so that even in its current state, it can provide some utility to your customer base. So what is the highest priority? Is it making the platform itself better or perfect? Well, of course, we want a better product. Or is it integrating the existing platform with more point-of-sale customers so that it's applicable to more different dealers and more scalable? Well, we want that too because it brings down the cost for all of us. Is the priority harnessing the data for truly driving a customer's business forward? Well, of course we want that too because it makes the benefit obvious and it helps all of you, our dealers. Now, I don't know the answer, but I can tell you that as the lab, I see the conflict between these complementary, yet in some ways competing goals. And there's a real challenge in prioritizing them, and I respect that. And I can tell you that these issues are not lost with our tech team or with Orgill leadership. We're committed to putting the resources in place to get this right. And CNRG understands in its operations leadership how important it is to embrace their role as the lab. So my learning number 3 is probably better characterized as 2A, but this stuff is expensive. Will just talked about that a moment ago. Now, despite my position as the lab lead, I have a P&L. I know, dang, but it's true. Over the past 2 years, we've lived in this environment where our customers were practically forced to use our online tools. Fear of a pandemic created the perfect climate for testing our BOPUS sea legs, for example. And despite the room for improvement in the platform that I've already talked about, our online sales soared. CNRG did more than $1 million in online sales in 2020 and about $700,000 last year. But while that's far more than we've ever done, and it was a huge increase over prior, it's still a very small percentage of our sales in total, and the results were very concentrated in one brand, McClendon's. And even if I took the percentage of sales from McClendon's, it's still well lower than where Dan set some of those averages when he spoke earlier. And it's expensive. My annual cost for website hosting is about the same as my total online sales. So the question becomes how to measure success now and in the future. Now, I know that measuring success is more than just online sales. I need help measuring that. I'd be curious what any of you are doing. I mean, my comp sales have been good overall, but that feels like too broad an indicator to really pinpoint my ROI and the money I'm spending to have a shoppable site. And that's important, not just for my own P&L, but for all of you and for the rest of our dealers who are considering a move online. We have to be able to speak to value and results. Now, many times I actually think that my best indicator of value is an intangible one. I know that when I have a high ROI program of any type, I know it when my ops team is interested and engaged, when they want more of it, when they're pushing me and our team for improvements. My ops team allocates attention to where they see results. It's like when some old guy tells you that his knee hurts and he knows it's gonna rain. I know that I've got a going Jesse on some new technology when I've got people like Raymond White or Paul Camo, 2 of our operations leads, pushing me, trying to accelerate their adoption rate. Now, that's not a new learning necessarily, but it's worth listing. Your ops guys know. But I'll tell you, probably the biggest and most important thing that's happened in the lab since the last time we met is that we've dramatically built up our tech team at Orgill, both in number and, more importantly, in expertise. Under the leadership of Mark Hamer, we're getting more done, and we're getting it done much faster with much greater clarity. So I talk about listening to my ops team. My ops team has high praise for what Mark is doing, and they believe in where Orgill's going with these technologies. You might be surprised to know that there's no longer a CNRG IT group. Instead, all of our CNRG people now report through Mark's organization, and they've been assigned to various areas that fit their skills best with companies' needs and with our dealers' needs. That shift actually has resulted in more attention being paid to CNRG's technology needs rather than less. And we've actually begun the process of implementing or are vetting many other tech tools since the pandemic. Some are not so customer-facing, such as business intelligence through Power BI, or a revised help desk program through Sherwell, or project management using Workfront. But others are directly related to customer service, like mobile checkout. We're also looking at electronic shelf tags, Theatro, ShopperTrack, the list goes on. We'll report on all those in future symposiums. And all that's happening under Mark's guidance. And that's really the final learning, is that this hard stuff becomes easier to believe in when you're confident in the team. And that's why I'm no longer just a skeptic. I'm now optimistic. I'm optimistic about where it's going. Look, I've been very honest with you in my few minutes with you today that we as the lab really aren't quite satisfied with where we are yet. But I see bright things ahead, both for the tech initiatives that we've already implemented as well as the ones to come. We're going to keep this moving forward, and I believe that will position Orgill and CNRG as leaders in the hardware and home improvement industry, and we'll be able to share all those results with you because, again, we are the lab. So thanks for your time. I look forward to seeing you on the show floor, and